On a $95,000 TFSA, choosing beneficiary instead of successor holder for your spouse can forfeit around $75,000 of tax-free growth over just 10 years, according to modeling by lifemoney.ca. Most people who set up a TFSA never notice these two options. They look almost identical, but at death they behave completely differently. Stick with me, because I'm going to show you exactly why one keeps the account alive and the other quietly kills it. Here's the simple version. Both options pay out the TFSA balance tax-free the day you die, so at first glance they look the same. The difference is what happens to the wrapper, the tax-free account itself. I read the fine print so you don't have to, and this is where it gets buried. When you name your spouse as successor holder, CRA says they don't just get the money, they become the new holder of the exact same TFSA. The account never closes, and every dollar of future growth stays tax-free. Crucially, CRA confirms this uses none of their own contribution room, so it stacks on top of whatever TFSA they already have. A beneficiary is different. The institution cuts them a check for the balance and then shuts the TFSA down for good. As several Canadian tax guides and credit unions explain, the money comes out tax-free, but the shelter itself vanishes. From that point on, that money is sitting in the open, exposed to tax. This is the part that surprises people. Successor holder is a spousal-only privilege. TaxTips.ca notes the Income Tax Act only allows the tax-exempt status to pass to a spouse or common-law partner. If you name your adult daughter, she can only be a beneficiary. The TFSA's tax shelter simply cannot carry over to her, full stop. Here's the mechanism most people miss. A successor holder spouse keeps the whole account and their own TFSA room is completely unaffected. A beneficiary, by contrast, receives a lump sum, and Planacy notes that unless they have enough unused room to recontribute the full amount, most of that money starts earning taxable investment income going forward. There's often a gap between death and when funds are actually paid out, and the account keeps growing during it. For a beneficiary, that growth is a TFSA taxable amount reported on a T4A and added to their income. If a $95,000 TFSA grows 5% before payout, about $4,750. That $4,150 is taxable. At a 30% rate, that's roughly $1,325 of tax just for the delay. A successor holder pays nothing on it. Put it all together, and you get the headline number. LifeMoney.ca modeled a $95,000 TFSA, growing at 6% a year for a decade. Kept alive by a successor holder, the entire gain stays tax-free. Collapsed to a beneficiary and taxed year after year outside the shelter, the family ends up roughly $75,000 poorer, from nothing more than which box was ticked. Before I get to the last part, which is the most counterintuitive piece of this, here's a catch the account brochure never highlights. If you name no one at all, the TFSA drops into your estate, where probate and delays can tie up the money and shave value before it's ever reinvested. Silence isn't neutral, it's the worst option of the three. Here's the piece that flips people's thinking. Take Sarah's $95,000 TFSA and her husband Mark's existing $80,000 TFSA. As successor holder, Mark ends up controlling $175,000 fully tax sheltered, with none of his own room consumed. As a beneficiary, he'd get $95,000 cash and, unless he had that much unused room, would be forced to park a big chunk in a taxable account. If this is useful, subscribe. The next breakdown is already coming. So what does this mean for you? If you have a spouse or common law partner, log into your TFSA account and check whether they're listed as successor holder, not just beneficiary. If not, request the successor holder designation form, which many institutions like TD offer specifically. It's a 2-minute fix that protects every future dollar of growth. If you're single or want your TFSA to go to children, understand the tax shelter simply ends at death for them. That's the law, not your bank's fault. What you can do is name beneficiaries clearly, assign percentages, and add contingent beneficiaries so the account skips the estate entirely. And couples should map both partners' CRA contribution room so the survivor can keep as much sheltered as possible. That one designation can be the difference between your spouse keeping $175,000 tax-free or losing $75,000 to the taxman. Next, I'm covering the RRSP to RRIF conversion trap, the mandatory withdrawals that quietly push retirees into higher tax brackets. If you want to catch that, subscribe so you don't miss it.